There are stories that push the boundaries between the inexplicable and the absurd. Accounts so strange, they seem to belong to a collective nightmare born from the human imagination. Yet in some cases, the facts persist, and the objects that carry them become silent witnesses to what cannot be understood. Today, you will meet one of the most enigmatic and disturbing artifacts in the world, the doll known as Letta Me Out. An ancient object with a human-like appearance that for decades has provoked fear, discomfort, and unexplained phenomena in everyone who comes near it. Before we dive into this story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This helps keep our work alive and encourages us to continue exploring the most mysterious and terrifying cases on the planet. Now, prepare yourself. What you are about to hear is real, and perhaps after learning the story of Letta Me Out, you will never look at a doll the same way again. The story begins in Australia in the early 1970s. A man named Kerry Walton, living in the city of Wagga Wagga, decided to visit an old abandoned house, a place he and his brother had avoided since childhood. The building, with broken windows and a collapsing roof, was the subject of local rumors. Some said it was haunted by the ghost of a woman who had died alone decades earlier. Others claimed the place was cursed. Driven by curiosity and a strange impulse to face fear, Kerry entered the house at night, carrying only a flashlight. As he explored the dark basement, the beam of his flashlight illuminated something partially buried beneath the rotting wooden floor. The object resembled a human figure, with striking features and glassy eyes that reflected the light in an unsettling way. When Kerry brushed off the dust and pieces of wood, he realized it was a doll, but not an ordinary doll. It was handcrafted from wood, with human hair and a shockingly lifelike expression. The mouth, slightly open, revealed tiny, detailed teeth. And the gaze. It was something he would never forget. A fixed stare, almost conscious, that seemed to follow him wherever he went. Kerry took the doll home. In the following days, strange things began to happen. Doors would slam on their own. Objects would change places, and at night, sounds of footsteps and whispers echoed through the rooms. The family, terrified, began avoiding the room where the doll had been placed. But the real terror came one early morning when Kerry woke with the feeling of being watched. When he looked toward the corner of the room, he saw the doll lying on the floor, facing the bed, even though it had been left on a high shelf, far from any possibility of falling. It was at that moment that Kerry began to suspect something was wrong. Seeking to understand what he had found, he took the doll to a local museum, believing it to be an ancient relic. The specialists, however, were intrigued. After careful analysis, they determined the object was over 200 years old and displayed characteristics typical of ritual sculptures from Eastern Europe, possibly Romania. Some of these pieces were used in spiritual invocation ceremonies, intended to house or trap entities. It was then that the name Letta Me Out emerged, inspired by words that, according to witnesses, seemed to echo from the doll when someone held it. Let me out. Over time, Kerry began reporting increasingly disturbing phenomena. Visitors claimed the doll's eyes would move, discreetly following whoever passed by. Pets refused to enter the same room. Dogs barked, howled, and fled, as if seeing something no one else could perceive. A photographer who tried to capture images of the object reported inexplicable equipment malfunctions. Film rolls burned, cameras shut off by themselves, and lights flickering in sync with the doll's presence. As the story gained traction, reporters and paranormal researchers began visiting Kerry Walton's house. Many of them reported dizziness, nausea, and an intense feeling of oppression when near Letta. A medium invited to examine the artifact stated that the doll housed the spirit of a Romanian boy who had died centuries ago, whose body had been buried with the wooden figure as a spiritual guardian. According to the medium, the energy trapped in the doll was ancient and desperate, and the spirit, upon realizing it had been freed from its original tomb, sought contact, yearning to get out. Kerry, however, was never able to rid himself of the doll. Several people attempted to buy it, offering considerable sums, but every attempt at separation resulted in accidents and misfortunes. On one occasion, a truck transporting the object mysteriously broke down on the road, and the doll returned unharmed, staring directly at the driver, who swore he heard whispers inside the cabin. Stories about Letta Me Out spread throughout Australia, and over the years the doll was occasionally displayed on television programs, always generating intense reactions. People would faint, cry, or simply refuse to remain in the same room for more than a few minutes. And even when the filming crew tried to frame it from a distance, there was an unsettling pattern. Cameras would shake, microphones captured incomprehensible noises, and the image seemed slightly distorted, as if something interfered with the equipment. Occult researchers claim that Letta is not merely a cursed object, but a channel of residual energy, a point of contact between the living world and something that does not belong to it. The wood from which it is made, according to analyses, contains fragments of bones and organic matter mixed into the varnish, which may indicate it was used in some kind of funeral ritual. Others suggest it is a protective effigy that became corrupted over time, transforming into a vessel for a dark presence. Kerry Walton still keeps it under his care. He claims that despite the fear and years of coexistence, he feels a strange connection to the object, as if it were impossible to abandon it. In recent interviews, he said Letta had become part of his life, a constant shadow. And even after trying several times to keep it elsewhere, it always seemed to ask to return. Today, the doll is kept in a reinforced display case with thick glass and motion sensors, and is only removed on rare occasions under supervision. Yet even so, reports of manifestations continue. Visitors claim that suddenly, Letta's eyes glow as if reflecting a non-existent light. Others insist they have seen its lips move, forming silent words. Some say this whole story is nothing more than a coincidence, a succession of events interpreted by superstitious minds, that the doll is just an ancient artifact, nothing more. But there are also those who swear that in its presence, something inside them changes. A primitive feeling, a fear that does not come from reason, but from instinct, as if something were telling them that what stands before them is not dead. The doll Letta Me Out remains one of the most studied and feared objects in the paranormal world. No scientific explanation has been able to decipher the precise origin of its manifestations. Instruments fail, measurements are lost, and conclusions hang in the air, surrounded by heavy silence. What is known is that everyone who approaches it feels something, and that something is what makes it one of the most unsettling pieces ever discovered. In the end, the story of Letta Me Out reminds us that the deepest fear lies not only in what is seen, but in what is felt. A gaze that seems alive, an object that should not move, yet it moves. A presence that insists on remaining, asking, whispering, pleading, "Let me out." If you made it this far, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us continue exploring the darkest mysteries of our world, those that science still cannot explain. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.